Your Majesty, the King of Swaziland, King Mswati, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. I would like to express my appreciation to the Right Honorable Mr. Narendra Damodardas Modi for having extended to me and to us of Africa an invitation to be with the people of India today in celebrating not just our oneness, but also our great desire to be one, to be united, to be of the same road of those marching to progress. My appreciation also goes to the government and people of India for the warm welcome extended to us since our arrival in this beautiful city. Ladies and gentlemen, I come as chairperson of the African Union and also as the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. We are indeed delighted that this important summit is finally taking place after it had been postponed because of the Ebola epidemic that was threatening to ravage some parts of Africa. It is heartening that we have now gathered here a clear testimony of the combined successful efforts by the health experts in the affected region and the governments of those regions indeed. Governments of the continent, as well as the entire world, which joined with us in Africa who had been affected by this malady in order to eradicate this scourge. I understand it's now eradicated. Ladies and gentlemen, relations between India and Africa have a long and distinguished historical foundation. They go back thousands of years to the days when Indian traders, aided by the seasonal monsoon winds, sailed to the east coast of Africa to engage in lucrative trade. The African continent, and indeed my own country, Zimbabwe, provided the subcontinent with the mangrove poles, elephant tusks, gold, and gemstones, among other products. Later on, during the colonial period, there was an influx of Indian immigrants brought to Africa to work on the railways in East Africa, at the sugar and other plantations in Mauritius, Madagascar, and Southern Africa. These form the present bulk of the Indian diaspora in Africa and have been a critical link of trade between the continent and the Indian subcontinent. With this background, it is therefore not surprising that both Africa and India have seen it fit to revive this strategic partnership that has blossomed from that rich foundation. And of course, Honorable Prime Minister, you made reference to the geological oneness, the physical oneness of our continents, which existed once upon a time, and only to be followed, but that by the geological separation that took place, to create in-between space for the peaceful flow of waters we now call the Indian Ocean. You will also recall that at the second summit of the Indo-Africa Forum, held in Addis Ababa in May 2011, we agreed on the need to further consolidate our strategic partnership, which is anchored on our long years of fraternal relationship and our common approach against colonialism and similar needs for growth and development. It is also important to note that this relationship cherishes the principles of equality, mutual respect, and mutual benefit, and also acknowledges the commitments by both sides to the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of states. You were the predecessor to us in the struggle for independence. When that son of India first resided in our territory, in that part of South Africa they called Natal. It was Indira Gandhi, it was Mahatma Gandhi. And from the soils of Africa, the sacred soils of Africa, he decided to get back to India and there to wage a struggle, to see the birth of a great, great, great party, the India Congress, that party which saw the likes of Nehru join it, worked through a revolutionary way that mobilized the people of India and reminded that India belonged to India, to the Indians, and not to the British. That they were therefore masters of their own destiny. They should therefore unite and fight, but not spill blood, but use passive methods, passive resistance to gain their territory. And while those who colonized India in defense of certainly what was not their right to rule others, resorted to violence and to all inhuman methods to prevent this oneness of the people of India succeeding. That did not succeed. Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru led the people, showed the people that they should sacrifice themselves, undergo that humiliation. At the end of the day, they will succeed. And indeed, in the latter part of the 40s, 1947, they succeeded. And India once again regained its right, God-given right, inherent right to rule itself. That lesson was learned by us. South Africa, I was at college there then, through its youth league, also, as it followed the objectives of the African National Congress, adopted passive resistance. But it was the butchering that took place, the inhuman, violent attacks on those who participated in passive resistance that revolted the spirit of the Africans and said to them, no, passive resistance is only producing more deaths, more violence, more imprisonments. Let us be more effective. But it had been the stepping stone to what followed later, the armed struggle. The armed struggle born of our unity in 1963 with the creation of liberation committees to be headquartered in Tanzania, and that to superintend the decolonization of Africa through the various regional armed groups. We had to arm ourselves under the Liberation Committee created by the OAU in 1963-64. And so, what you had gained through passive resistance and could not gain through passive resistance, we gained through the armed struggle. Our forefathers shall always be revered for having thought of a unity with a punch, a unity that said the enemy will not listen if you say, go away, merely go away, this is our country. Because in Africa, he used violence. So if he used violence, you also must use violence to kick him out of Africa. So we succeeded. You had succeeded. We have succeeded. But the story of unity of our continents did not emerge immediately. In the context in which the United Nations had been formed on the basis that there shall be those who call themselves permanent members, as they claimed to have originated the organization, and the others who followed later and joined. So we have remained underdogs at the United Nations, where we should have been treated on equal terms as human beings equal to others. But no, that has not been the case. Our territory had been vandalized, our rights vandalized in the past, but those who had done it had not repented. Even as we gained our independence, there was no honor given us, and still there is no honor being given us. We are still underdogs at the United Nations. We thank you. We thank you, India, for the continued support, the support rendered to Africa towards the infrastructure development. The United States $5 billion worth of lines of credit to help us to achieve our developmental goals, and a further $700 million towards new institutions and training programs. These are gifts very highly appreciated by us. They have not come from those who have robbed us and deprived us of our humanity. Once upon a time, they dug our gold, our minerals. Perhaps some of them still do, but no, they don't honor us to that extent. Having said this, I would like to underline the need for a robust evaluation and follow-up mechanism, this to ensure the effective implementation of projects and programs agreed to between us. Let us give ourselves realistic targets. We are, as is being shown today, of one love, two hearts, getting back to that geological stage you have talked about when Africa was physically one. Let us be courageous enough to point out lack of progress where it exists in order to speed up the meeting of our intended goals. With regards to the two working documents before us, namely the political declaration and partnership framework document, it is my humble opinion that these capture the feelings, the sentiments and aspirations of our countries and peoples. They reflect the priorities of the African continent as highlighted in the African Union's Agenda 2063, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The United Nations, has it really united us? Yes, it has brought us together in a kind of forum where others are giants, some are giants, and others are dwarfs. We are made dwarfs at the United Nations. But why should we accept it? We have India with us, a geological twin to Africa. And India has 1.2 billion people. Now, together, we of Africa and we of India constitute 1/3 of the population of this world. Surely, 1/3 of the population of this world, which at the United Nations is treated as a little kid. We say no. 1/3 of the population of the world must be respected. Its rights must be respected. Its equality must be respected. And that is why we say, let's amend the United Nations so it be the United Equal Nations. We are not that. We are saying, let us amend the Charter of the United Nations. We in Africa, on our part, have discussed this matter again and again, and met in Swaziland, in Ezulwini, that town, where we said we need at least 2 seats in the permanent seats in the Security Council. If the veto is to be retained, although we want it abolished, then let that veto also be in the hands of our 2 permanent members. We will not accept less. And now with India, and India seeking also a permanence in the United Nations, to be represented there as India with a veto, if the veto is to be retained, without the veto, if the veto is to be abolished. We are saying we three want equality. Hear us, you who call yourselves permanent members. That organization is defective. It must accept true, genuine, real, genuine equality. We are unequal, and we say no to that inequality. Let us be equal. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying that this strategic partnership has a huge potential for both Africa and India, if identified areas are fully implemented. And I know we are all determined that those identified areas will be will be our concern. We emphasize also the need for inclusiveness so that all member states enjoy the benefits offered by our partnership. It is a partnership of two equal continents. But continents are physical. Two equal peoples who recognize each other's benefits, each other's potentials. We saw here our people do their dances. They recognize each other's cultures. They recognize each other's possessions and say, wherever you are as a regional country in Africa, you call yourself Nigeria, you call yourself Guinea, Senegal, you call yourself South Africa, by whatever name, you're African. By whatever name, you are all equal. And in India, whether you are is Gujarat or Punjab, by whatever name, you are Indian. You have the right of self-determination in your country. You of Africa have the right of self-determination in your country. Two continents with peoples have that right of self-determination. Surely, let us determine that as equal people, we can develop together and see our people make progress together and call this world finally their world. It is our world indeed, but let us make it, all of us, as we believe in humanity, as we believe in equality, let us make it the world of equal people. I thank you.